YouTube, what's going on? Crowder here, and for those who do not know me, I'm an ex-Call of Duty World Champion player. I'm now the head coach of FaZe Vegas in the professional CDL league, and I am here to give you the best Black Ops 7 movement tips to help you guys enjoy Black Ops 7 just a little bit more. And to start off, we're going to be giving you guys the best movement settings, because if you don't have the best controller settings and movement settings, you will not be able to do everything that I show you in this video. A lot of it's basic, but you obviously want to have everything dialed in before you get after, actually trying the moves in the game and all that stuff. So, that being said, we have controller settings here on the left. We're going to go through all of what we play on. I play on button layout default. Some people play on tactical. A lot of that is just personal preference of what you play with. Just for a disclaimer, I use a Battle Beaver PS5 controller, so that's what I'm playing on. My left button is X and my right button is circle. So my left button is my jump button and my right button is going to be my slide button or crouch button. So that's exactly what I'm rocking when it comes to obviously playing this game. That's why I play on default. And then the stick sensitivity, it doesn't really matter for this. That's more of an aiming thing, and I'm playing on 1.6 for now. If you scroll through all these, this is pretty much basic stuff. The dead zone inputs are going to be very important for this movement guide, and I'm going to explain them right now for you guys, especially for those who do not really know much about dead zones or anything of the sort, or you're just playing Call of Duty for the first time or anything like that. The dead zones are going to be very important for movement with the left stick. By this time, I also have an aiming guide out, and I also have just in general settings videos too that I explain a lot of these dead zones as well. So if you want the whole entire thing on the right stick dead zones too, I'd recommend watching some of those videos. But the left stick is going to be the movement stick, and that's going to be very important. So you can see here, when I go from 0 and I throw it all the way up there, you're going to be able to see this red line right here, and that red line is going to get obviously bigger, and the circle is going to expand. So what that means is, in order for me to get my left stick to actually register movement in the game, I'm going to have to pass that 25% mark and actually get my left stick all the way over there. That is not what we want when we're playing Call of Duty, because Call of Duty is a very fast-paced game. You get a lot of rotational aim assist from your left stick, and just in general, you want to be moving and being a harder target to shoot. So you definitely do not want input delay on your left stick ever, and usually this is going to be defaulted to 10. So what I recommend doing is trying to get it as close to 0 as possible, and depending on your controller, there might be some stick drift. Your controller might do some movements on its own. So I would start at 0 and try it. If you don't like that, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth until you find the right dead zone. If you go anything higher than 5, most likely your controller is on the verge of probably needing to be replaced. But either way, kind of make do with what you got. So I play on 0, and then my left stick maximum is also going to be very important, because as much as you want your movement to register for so many different reasons when it comes to aim assist and movement and all that, you also want to hit full speed on your strafes, your sprinting, your walking, your crouching, your back steps, and everything that Call of Duty has to offer. You're going to want to make sure you hit full speed. So at left stick maximum here, it's going to be the same thing. Right now I have it at 65 or 65%. If I go all the way to 99, where I'm pretty sure it's defaulted to, in order for me to get the full speed of my left stick, aka the full speed of my sprint or anything of the movements that I'm trying to get to, I'd have to go all the way to the edge of the stick, which can take a little bit longer than if I had it all the way at 65. Now, the reason why I don't have it any lower than 65 is I found that every time I go a little bit lower, it just starts getting a little bit buggy and the controller starts kind of tweaking out. So I think 65 is the perfect sweet spot. Some of you guys might have to do like 75, 85, but basically anything better than 99 is going to be better and more helpful when it comes to movement settings and obviously hitting that full speed as fast as possible. The right stick minimum, I play on 3, max 99 for reasons that I say in the aim guide, and then your left trigger and right trigger are all going to be 1 or 0, just for obvious reasons. You want your controller to be responsive. So those are going to be very important settings when it comes to this. Now let's move on to the movement section. All right, so if you scroll over to movement and you go to your sprint assist right here, you're going to see that you have tactical sprint assist, you have on, and you have off. You want to play on tactical sprint assist in this game, and all that just means is basically you are going to sprint as soon as you move your controller or your left stick forward. This game doesn't really have tactical sprint unless you use the perk. So just in case you're using that perk, you can just keep this on. It's really not that big of a deal. Either way, you want to be sprinting as fast as possible and moving as fast as possible. And with the tactical sprint assist option, that's exactly what you'll be having to do if you just move your stick forward. If you don't have this on, you're gonna have to either single click it or double click it depending on the settings that you have. And there's just really no need for that in the sense of just how this game is played. If you want to be able to control that, you definitely can turn this off, and then you can obviously have the single click in if you want to do that. I'll show you that in a second. But tactical sprint assist is really good, especially when sliding and all that stuff kind of comes into play. Sprint assist delay I have at 0, and then you want to sprint assist sideways and backward on. And the reason why you want backwards and sideways on is because if you're doing omni movement in this game, you can slide backwards, you can slide sideways, and having that sprint assist is going to be very important to get those slides off very smoothly. So that's what we're rocking for these settings. Mantle settings and crouch assist I have off. I don't like the corner slice. And now the wall jump assist is something that's new in Black Ops 7 that we've never had in Call of Duty before. And you will be jumping off walls in this game if you'd like to. And now usually you would see that people would say just have this turned on or sideways only or forwards only, something of the sort to assist you. As of now, and this game is still new, and as the game goes on, I'll obviously make more videos in the future about this, I think that it's better to keep it off. And the reason I say that is when I had it on in the beta, in the beginning of this game when I tried it out again, I just feel like sometimes you'll jump near a wall and you don't want to bounce off of it, and all of a sudden you're bouncing off that wall and it bounces you to another wall, and then all of a sudden you're hitting off another wall and you're just all over the place and you can't really control it. So I feel like the wall jump assist isn't really needed because you can be pretty accurate and it's really easy to control which jumps you want to kind of jump off these walls from. So I just recommend keeping that off for now. There's no really need to have it on. Same thing with the combat roll assist. I don't really think you need the combat roll. Honestly, I think the combat roll is kind of corny, but regardless, I keep this off for now. That could be changed in the future. We'll kind of have to wait and see as the game goes on, but right now I'm keeping that off, and I'll explain the wall jumping in a different section of this video. And then slide and dive behavior. Now, if you want to have the ultimate movement, the best movement, the highest skill stealing movement, I recommend playing on hybrid. What I don't recommend playing on is tap to slide or tap to dive. That is going to give you delay in either one of the inputs just because you're going to be basically playing on like a bad version of hybrid. If you're going to play on anything and it's not hybrid and you don't really care about having that skill ceiling, you just want to move around smoothly, you don't really think diving is going to help you really ever, which most of the time it won't. It's kind of more of an advanced thing and it's really not that important, but it is nice to be able to do in certain situations. You can just play on slide only, and that will just give you no delay on the slide. You can only slide, you can't dive. It's really hard to mess up, and it's just going to make your slide canceling smooth. If you want the ultimate skill ceiling, and for this video, in the sake of it, we will show you what hybrid looks like and explain to you how to use it. I play on hybrid, which just means you have no delay on diving and no delay on sliding. You just have to know how to use the setting. We have hybrid on right there, sprint restore on, slide maintain sprint on as well. That's really good for slide canceling. And then the rest of this stuff is going to be pretty easy. Now moving on to movement advanced settings, you're going to see down here, this is what we're rocking with. Nothing really too crazy, very normal stuff. The auto door peak is nice, but in this game, it's really not as important as it was in others. And yeah, that's what we're rocking for the advanced settings. And then going over to combat, I'll just scroll through this. Nothing too crazy for this, but just so you guys have everything you need to. Prioritize interacts more of a Warzone thing. If you are playing on this and you're having an issue just like picking up guns and reloading, you can play on tap to reload. Doesn't really matter. And then just keep scrolling through this right here. Nothing too crazy. And that is it. So that is the movement settings. Everything you need to know. Dial that in, get it locked in, and now let's show you guys how to do all the stuff that you need to know. All right, so tip number one is going to be the most basic thing in Call of Duty. Most of you guys who have been playing Call of Duty know exactly what this is and how to do it, but this is for also people that have never really played COD and are brand new to it. It is called the slide cancel. It is the main mechanic in Call of Duty, and it's been the main mechanic for the past like 5 years or so, I would say. And all it is when your character is just doing this around the map, just like this. If you pull out your knife and you're moving like this, you're just going to see your player slide canceling. And in order to do the slide cancel, it is very simple. You'll sprint forward with your tactical sprint assist or just whatever sprint you're using. So you're sprinting like that. So it's going to be your left stick forward. And then as you're running, you're going to hit your slide button, whatever that is. Mine is the back right button or circle. So I'm going to sprint forward, circle, and that's going to be the slide. In order to cancel the slide, all you have to do is hit your jump button and you will be canceling that slide. So it's forward, slide, jump button. Forward, slide, jump button. So literally left stick forward, circle X, and it's just gonna look like this. Left stick forward, circle X, circle X, circle X. You can also do it by doing circle circle, which is just slide slide. So slide slide like that. But if you do that, you're gonna end up in a crouch position unless you hit the jump button at the end of it. If you want to pop up and be standing at the end of your slide, you can just do that, and then you can keep going forward. It's a very fluid movement. Sometimes you want to slide into a head glitch and you don't want to slide cancel and then stand up because something like this is kind of a half cover where you'd be really exposed, where you want to be crouched behind this. So if you want to slide into a head glitch and not be standing, you can just hit slide, slide. So you'd be like this, slide, slide. And then boom, you are now crouched in position, under cover, and have a lot more cover there in certain gunfights. So that does come in handy. That is the slide cancel. Very, very basic stuff. Now let's move on to the next mechanic. All right, now for this next mechanic, after you know how to slide cancel, the next thing that you're going to want to add to your slide cancel, because if you're just sliding around the map, you notice that you don't really have your gun up and you're not really ready for gunfights too much just because you're playing from the hip. The next thing that you want to learn how to do and do it smoothly on top of everything that I taught you guys in my aim guide, which you guys should definitely watch because a lot of this movement stuff goes and ties into what I showed you guys with the aim guide. If you combine both of them, this will make you the most complete player to obviously enjoy Black Ops 7 a little bit more. But regardless of that fact, you want to be able to aim and slide cancel at the same time. And in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, you could also do this in Call of Duty Black Ops 6. You can actually slide and aim at the same time, and it's going to look something like this. And you can see that I'm just sliding and aiming in. So while I'm moving, I'm able to control my aimer, which is really important because there's going to be a lot of gunfights that you slide into that you want to be able to track and, like, you know, check corners and sweep these corners to make sure you're obviously clearing your angles and getting into these fights. And if you have your aim down sight ready to go, you have a better chance of being more accurate, getting that kill, and hitting more accurate shots as well while you're doing it. So you'd be able to slide and shoot like that. And the way you do this, it's very simple. You do that exact slide mechanic like I showed you guys, the slide, cancel, slide, and jump. But after you slide, you aim in. So it's slide, aim in, and then you can hit that jump button. Slide, aim in, jump. Slide, aim in, jump. And all you're going to do when you're just turning corners, if you don't want to do it from the hip, because sometimes you think someone's going to be a little bit farther, this would be used in that situation. For example, if you saw someone close and you wanted to hip fire them, you can kind of go like that. But if you saw someone a little bit farther around the corner, you would want to hit one of these. So yeah, you want to get very comfortable with this mechanic and just sliding and aiming in. It's very simple. Slide, aim, and jump. Slide, aim, and jump. And the more you do this and the more you get used to it, the better you will get at the game, especially when you know people around the corner. You can throw some pre-fires in there. You can work on your centering, which is from the aim guide, and you can get very, very good by mastering this mechanic. Very basic one, very important one. Now let's move on to the next. All right, so now that you know the slide cancel and the aiming and slide cancel, I'm going to add a little bit more sauce to this. Again, very basic stuff, but it is very underrated, and it also makes it very good to challenge around corners. This is more when you're confident that you know someone's around the corner, or you're just trying to be a harder target to shoot at, and you're just feeling confident trying to, you know, and cover a lot of ground. It is going to be the jump, aim, slide, cancel. All you're going to do is jump to start, and when you're in the air, you're going to hit your slide key, so it's going to look like this. You're going to jump, slide, and when you hit the ground, you're automatically going to slide. You don't have to time the button or anything like that. You're just going to hit jump, slide, and you're going to slide like that. And then right before you hit the ground, you can start your aim and just jump, slide, aim. And then you're going to be able to just aim as you're sliding. And then, of course, you can cancel that slide with the jump button at the end, just like that. And you're going to be looking just like this, going around the map. So you can cover a lot of traction like this. You can be very confident. You're going to move very fast. You're going to be a hard target to hit. And in general, it's a very good mechanic to catch people off guard. The more you're moving, the harder the target you are for your enemy to hit you. It's obviously going to give you more of an advantage in these fights that you're fighting against your opponent. So yeah, you want to make sure you just jump, aim, and slide like that, and you can just do a lot of cool moves like that. So yeah, just a little bit of an add-on to the slide, cancel, and aiming in. You now can jump like that. If you can have all those three mastered, it's going to help you out a lot. And once you have this now mastered and you've practiced this, I'm going to show you the next mechanic that you need to try out. So this next tip that I'm going to explain is a very important one, especially if you're a search and destroy player, but even in hardpoint or anything that the respawns that you're playing. Shouldering is in the aim guide as well, and it's going to be in the movement guide. And the reason why is if you're just running around and you're slide canceling everywhere and you're not getting any info, if you're just sliding around the map, you're just going to get yourself beamed. There's still going to be people in head glitches. There's still going to be people playing power positions. There's going to be people that can aim, and you're just going to get yourself killed a lot if you're just kind of sliding out in the open. And even if you're doing some of these movements, if you're just sliding with no info, you're going to get caught slipping, and that's going to obviously get you a lot of deaths that you don't want. Beautiful thing about Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 is you have omni movement, so you can sprint in any direction. I can sprint forwards, I can sprint sideways, I can sprint backwards, I can sprint diagonally. It does not matter where you sprint. You will be sprinting, and that means you can slide and do all the mechanics that I just showed you in those directions. So for example, you can sprint forward and slide cancel, you can sprint to the left and slide cancel, you can sprint diagonally and slide cancel, and you can do it backwards and slide cancel. So everything I just showed you, you can sprint backwards and jump slide cancel. You can do all those mechanics in any direction once you obviously master everything down for it, right? Going on to this next tip, shouldering is very important because when you shoulder and come back, the way the cameras work in this game is if you shoulder and come back, they won't really be able to hit you with more than maybe one bullet, and that's if they're pre-firing, and you'll get the info of where they are. So if you were to shoulder and see someone kind of running up on this wall on you, you shoulder, you get that info. Now, with the mechanics that I just showed you, you're going to be able to slide out sideways. You don't have to turn your aimer, slide, and then kind of peek. In this game, you can just do a sideways slide. So you can shoulder, get info. If there was nothing there, then you can use your mechanics to obviously like slide and progress forward. But if you were to shoulder and there is someone there, you can now do one of these and get that kill. And you can obviously use the slide to kind of dip under cover, pop back up, and have full advantage in these kills. So getting shoulder peaks is really good to combine with the slide cancels that I just showed you by shouldering. If you don't see anything there, or you shoulder and you see someone, you can back up and get out of there. It's going to save you in a lot of situations where you don't have the advantage. If I shoulder and someone's on that head glitch, I probably don't want to take that child. So I shoulder, I see him, I'm out of here. I can reposition. I can go backwards. I can go up here. I can obviously wall bounce and do something like this. There's so many different things you can do that you're going to be able to do if you get the info. So getting information and knowing where your opponent's going to be is very important. So shoulder peeking is very important too. So you can shoulder in here, see nothing, boom. Or you see him there, you shoulder peek there, not going to be there. Shoulder peek there, we're good. And all that is basically making sure you're not getting killed by people in power position. So you can like shoulder that. If you see them there, you can reposition, get out of there, and just back up. So make sure when you're playing the game, you're shoulder peeking and then you're sliding with confidence after you get the info of what you want to do and progress around the map. So it's a very important part. And if you pair that with the centering and the aim guide and everything else, you're going to get yourself a lot more kills and a lot less deaths by having that information. Okay, and for the next one is going to be something that kind of incorporates with the slide, but in a different way. So I just taught you all about slide canceling and popping up and everything that comes along with that. Now, when you are also getting into head-on gunfights, there's going to be sometimes you want to chow with full confidence, and instead of just slide canceling and, doing a very predictable movement that a lot of people do know about, although it is still a good movement to break cameras and all that, you can change it up and be a little bit more unpredictable. And what I mean by that is instead of slide canceling and challenging just like that, you can actually do something called the drop slide. And all that is instead of sliding and then jumping out of it and, being able to chow like that, you actually hold your slide button the entire way, and it's going to look like this. So you can slide and you're just going to like almost slide into a lie down drop shot. And instead of popping back up, where if someone was holding this corner, they'd be like, expecting you to pop back up, you're going to actually stay down below their bullets too. So you can do that too. If you want to take an aggressive chow, or if you want to re-chow someone you shoulder, you see him, now you can kind of just go like that and take that full-on chow in a 1v1. So it's a very good 1v1 challenge mechanic. And sometimes when there's a lot of people there, once you're kind of down here, you're stuck and you're not moving. So you're going to be able to get easily traded. It just really depends on how you use this. But it's very good in 1v1s if you are confident in obviously doing this mechanic very smoothly. And you can do it in any direction. So you can slide forward and do it, and you're gonna like lie on your back while doing that. You can slide sideways and do it. You can kind of go forward and look to the side and do it, and you can go backwards and do it too. So there's so many different ways you can do it, but all you have to do while you're doing this is just your normal slide cancel, but instead of hitting that jump button, you're holding onto your slide button the entire time. So it would be move forward, slide, aim in, and hold, and never let go of your slide button. So again, you hold forward and you hit your slide button. Once you hit your slide button, you start to aim in, but you never let go of that slide button. So it's going to look like this: forward, slide, never let go, and boom. And if you want to do it in other directions, you can do the same thing in other directions, and just keep kind of peeking corners like that, so you kind of get to this drop slide rhythm of just being able to hit these shots. So many different cool things you can do with this. If you see someone there, you can kind of shoulder and re-peek that way. If you kind of get some information, you saw someone at the mid-tank, you can kind of go like that, back up and take that slide chow. A lot of different cool mechanics that you can do while you're, kind of fighting into that. There's also things where you can kind of like slide around corners, and you'll have all of this over here, but you can slide and shoot around the corner that way. So if there is two people, you can kind of, isolate yourself and do some pretty crafty stuff. But that is the drop slide, a very simple one. All you have to do is hold on to that slide button while you're doing it, and you will always drop into the drop shot, and it's very helpful, especially for people that like the drop shot. That's kind of a way to add some sauce to it. And now that we've gotten all those mechanics out of the way, there are some that we're still going to visit, especially the wall jump, so don't worry about that. But I'm going to explain exactly why all of these movements are very important. So you might have just heard me say something about breaking cameras. I'm not too sure if I just mentioned that. But in Call of Duty, when it comes to this game, you have to have good aim, because you have to be able to hit your shots. So, when you're on power positions like this, if someone challenges you, you need to be able to hit these shots and get those kills, right? So you definitely need to have good aim. But a big thing with aim and just how this game plays in general, if someone is in, like, for example, a corner, or, you're trying to check corners and they're holding like angles like this where they can cut off their close here and they can also watch far crosses, you have to remember that Call of Duty is a peeker's advantage game. And what I mean by that is the faster you peek the corner, you are going to have first shot. That is like that in a lot of games that you're going to play. And in Call of Duty, with movement and sliding and how fast you can move, the faster you turn that corner, the more of an advantage you're going to have if you actually center your shots and get that first bullet off, especially with pre-firing. So if I was turning this corner and I knew someone was kind of in that corner playing that angle, whether it's the angle of this, crouching, laying down, or maybe he's playing an off angle like this, if you want to have the advantage while turning that corner, if you were to just sprint the corner, it's not terrible. You can sprint the corner and go like that. You're going to turn the corner, but not as fast as you possibly can. If you were to, crouch like this and turn the corner, you're going to be turning it as slow as possible. And both of those situations, this player is going to probably have the jump on you because you're not turning the corner too fast. What you want to be doing is turning the corner as fast as you can with a slide cancel, and then, of course, the wall jump that we're about to talk about too. But that's for a little bit later in this video. And all that is everything I showed you. You're going to be able to break cameras and use that peeker's advantage by sliding and turning that corner and getting those kills. So That's why a lot of this stuff is also very important, because you're giving yourself the best advantage in situations that you might not think you have the advantage at. If someone is around the corner and you do have to push them or you have to make the move, if you were to just sprint out and then challenge, you're probably going to die. So on top of not having cover sometimes, or you having to be the aggressor in Call of Duty or the challer, it's very important to have your movement mastered so you can obviously chow and break these cameras as much as you possibly can. On top of that too, you can do things like jump shot and other things too to turn those corners. But in general, I want you to know that a lot of the movement stuff in Call of Duty is also to help your peeker's advantage on top of being a hard target to shoot while you're obviously fighting in gunfights and all that stuff. So very important stuff. Just wanted to make sure I made that clear. Now let's continue moving on. All right, for this next one, I'm going to explain hybrid very simply for you guys. I don't think it's super important. And then we're going to talk about the wall bounce, and then we should be out of here. So hybrid, really quick, what we explained earlier in the video when we were going over settings is that you are able to dive like this with no delay, but you're also able to slide like that. And the way you dive and you slide is the same button. It's going to be your slide key, your circle, or whatever key that you're using or button that you're using on your controller. The way hybrid works is if you're using tactical sprint or you're just sprinting and I'm not clicking in my left stick at all, I'm just, sprinting around. If I hit my slide key, I slide. Very simple stuff. If you are using hybrid and you are clicking in your left stick and holding that click in, my left stick is now clicked in and held, and then you hit your button, you will perform a dive. So again, clicked in left stick, then you hit the button and you will perform a dive. So hybrid is very simple. If you're not clicked in with that left stick, you'll be able to slide around and all that stuff. But if you are clicked in and holding that left stick in, you will dive. And that is all hybrid is at a very simple just level of what it is. So again, if you wanted to dive off stuff, you just click and hold it in and you can dive in. If you want to kind of like dive across the doorway, you can do that. But if you want to slide, just don't click and hold that left stick. And that is how you control hybrid. A lot of people have asked me in my Twitch chat before, how, like, why is hybrid so clunky? It's not that it's clunky. You're probably just like mashing that left stick in and doing a lot of on-accident dives. And that's why I was saying earlier, you can play on slide only if you want, but at the end of the day, you can kind of master whatever you want to with dives. And it's the same thing for hybrid. You can sprint backwards, left stick in, and you can dive backwards. You can dive sideways too if you were just holding that stick in and do all those dives too. So the same thing kind of applies when it comes to sliding as it does diving. You just have to be holding that left stick down and in, and you'll be able to dive around the map. So that's hybrid explained very simply. Now let's talk about this wall bounce. So in Black Ops 7, they came out with a new mechanic, and this is their new thing. It's the wall bounce. It's pretty cool. It's nothing too crazy, but there are a couple things to it that might help you out. And obviously, this is still a brand new mechanic, and I'm still learning it. And I'm going to be watching a lot of the pro players with it too, and talking to a lot of pro players and all that. So the more I learn about this, the more videos I will be making on it for you guys, I promise. But the way it's going to work is very simple. When you go to a wall and you run into a wall, if I just jump and do nothing, you run into the wall. But if you jump and then you jump again when you get close to the wall, you will bounce off of it. So for example, boom, boom, and I bounce off of the wall just like that. So they do have a wall bounce mechanic in this game. The thing with this is, though, you can jump off of walls, but you can only do it off of 3 different walls. So you can try to jump here, but if I wanted to jump off the same wall again, you notice that I can't. But you can combine wall jumps with 3 different movements. So I can jump here, and then you can jump off one wall if there was there. You can kind of do some cool things like that. Wall jump, and then wall jump. So you can do 3 wall jumps off of 3 different walls as long as they are different walls or it's the curved wall like that. So you have up to 3 wall bounces. You can do 3 wall bounces. You can just do 1 and then mantle up things. It's a good way to kind of mantle up in this game and get some advantage. It's also a good way to get some information like that. You can see people over there over walls at a different angle, because most people will be holding like this angle over here. If you were to jump off of this top thing, you can kind of get some information that you want over there by just doing that. So it's just a cool way to move around the map, and it's a very good way to camera people if you knew it. So again, you can slide these corners and take these challenges. You could slide this corner and take this challenge. You can dive this corner and take this challenge. That would be a little crazy. You can jump slide this corner and take this challenge, or you can slide drop into this corner, right? You can also wall bounce and take this challenge by just jumping and wall bouncing and taking that challenge just like that. So now you can use these wall bounces to chow just like that, and all you have to do is jump again when you get close to the wall. But the big thing to know when you are wall bouncing that a lot of people haven't caught on yet is when you are wall bouncing, it is not about the momentum of your character and where they are going. It is where you are looking when you bounce off the wall. So what I mean by that, if I was sprinting forward like this and I were to go to wall bounce, you would think that my sprinting momentum and wall bouncing launched me forward. But the way this game actually works is where you are looking is where you will bounce to. So what I mean by that, if I were to turn and go like that, even though my momentum was carrying this way as I turned, so I was going backwards, I hit the bounce key again and I bounced back towards where I was looking. So if you want to control your wall bounces, You have to be looking in the direction that you want to go. So if I wanted to go backwards, I can do like that. If I wanted to do it again, I can keep doing that. So I can kind of keep just jumping and going backwards. Or if I were to look to the right and I go like that, I see I kind of bounce towards the right there. So wherever I'm looking is where I'm going to be jumping. All right, so if I were to look towards that cut, I'm going to bounce towards that cut. If I wanted to go like that, I'd have to turn around. If I wanted to go like more towards the right, I'd have to look towards the right. So wherever you are looking when you are bouncing off the wall is going to be the direction that you jump. And that is very important to know because a lot of people don't really realize exactly how it works. And that kind of makes it look clunky. And then you misstep with the wall bounces and it can just kind of get a little crazy from there. So that's the best way to explain wall bouncing. All you have to do is kind of get close to the wall and jump again. And that is kind of going back to the settings I explained. That's the reason why I don't like the settings of wall bouncing on accident, because if you were to turn on wall jump assist, like I said before, if you were to just kind of bounce, you might just start bouncing off walls like I just did on accident. And that's kind of where it gets clunky. So I like to be able to kind of control my wall bounce and not have to do it on my own, because sometimes you can start, you know, getting all crazy like that. And if you wanted to like jump a corner and on accident, like you got close to it, you do a wall bounce jump and now you don't know what the hell's going on. So that's the new mechanic that Black Ops 7 brought in. And as we learn about it a little bit more and have some cool spots, I'll make some more videos on it. But that should be it, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to some movement mechanics in Black Ops 7 to help you guys out. Hopefully this video does help. If it does, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We have plenty of good content coming to you guys for this year. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.